Hello and welcome to No Particular Order, Mana Biscuit's weekly top 5 list show where we list our top 5 whatevers in no particular order. Okay, this week we have our top 5 reboots that have no business being a thing. These are items from film, television, what have you, that have been rebooted, are going to be rebooted, or possibly might be rebooted because they're rebooting everything and they just should never ever be rebooted. So without further ado, we will move on to our first contestant. TJ, what is your list of top 5 reboots that should never be a thing?
All right, my first one is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I think half of the pleasure in it is just how terrible it is, and if they tried to put some polish on it, it just wouldn't work anymore. Second one, Goonies, which is supposedly getting a sequel, and I'm semi-okay with that, but please, God, do not ever interfere.
Right.
Please, God, do not ever interfere with that. It is a classic, it is beloved, and I've heard some people as adults that say that it's not very good and that I only like it because I saw it as a child, and my response to that is that I will fight you.
Straight.
That is a valid response.
Yes.
Next, E.T. Because it's E.T., man. We don't want everything to be CGI now. Practical effects are just fine. And sometimes you just can't really improve on something like that. It would just end up hurting us all in our hearts. Our little glowing hearts.
Oh, yeah.
Next, UHF, the Weird Al movie. Now, I would totally be behind getting a sequel for this, or 12 sequels to this, or just give Weird Al Yankovic the keys to every media and let him go crazy. But as for remaking that, no. Because you couldn't get away with a lot of the stuff that he got away with at the time. Same with a lot of classic comedies. You just can't do it in this current era. And finally, Edward Scissorhands, mostly because I just have this horrible feeling that eventually Burton's going to do it. Like, they're going to run out of, like, weird, semi-awkward, creepy man-child characters for Johnny Depp to play, and they're going to go back to that well. And I don't want to see that.
No.
And that is my top 5.
All right. Good top 5. Rocky Horror Picture Show, Goonies, E.T., UHF, and Edward Scissorhands. So, next up, Jay. Top 5 reboots that have no business being a thing. Go.
Number 1 on the list is Firefly. Again, the show is amazing. You can't touch that original cast. You can't have anything better than what you had. And ultimately, Fox, you screwed it up and canceled it. So you don't get a second shot. Next up on the list is Legend. Legend, it was same argument in regards to the childhood thing. Now, it's still amazing, and I can't see it any other way. One of those that it's just priceless. Along with the next one, Princess Bride. Again, the cast there was amazing and can't be replicated. That cast made that movie. You put anybody else into that role, and it's just simply okay. Next one is one that's been rebooted, and that's V. V, again, stems from my childhood, and really there was nothing to pair the new series with to go, back to back, although Sci-Fi Channel is now... Sci-Fi Channel might have a shot at it, and I might have a blessing for that one, but as it stands... You got one season and you didn't do anything with it. Sorry, you don't get another shot. Lastly, Labyrinth. Jim Henson Studios. The update, the Mirror Mask, which was their most recent one, which was 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
Closer to 10, I think.
Yeah.
Has it really been that long? Wow.
Yeah.
All right, but Mirror Mask was their last attempt at something, and they did a wonderful job with that. But nothing compares to what they had when it was in its prime.
Nobody will ever have the raw sexuality of a mid-'80s David Bowie.
Nobody could fill that.
No, you can't do it.
No.
You can't do it. Anybody else gyrating to dance, magic
and
dance,
and no
just
coincidence
wouldn't work.
that this is the second week in a row that Labyrinth has made it onto one of our top 5 lists either.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay, well, Firefly, Legend, Princess Bride, V, and Labyrinth, all excellent choices. And lastly, we'll wrap up with my list. First thing on the list, something that is going to be rebooted. They have, I heard, cast Dwayne Johnson in the lead role, which I'm kind of okay with because I like Dwayne Johnson, but I am in no way okay with rebooting this at all. Oh, that's my full list. Well, spoiler alert, there it all is. I messed that up. Anyway, we'll just go down the list. Big Trouble in Little China, no business at all being rebooted. It's on Netflix right now. Watch it if you don't believe me. It holds up. What you were talking about earlier in practical versus CGI, you just know it's going to be all CGI. It's just going to be a big mess, and we'll talk about more of that when I get to Clash of the Titans. Since you have my full list, might as well plug that. And then the other thing is, part of the charm of this movie, in my opinion, is all of the pseudo-racist stuff about Chinese mythology that you just couldn't get away with anymore. And it, in that way, it kind of encapsulates the 80s and that culture. And maybe, you know, that's not a good thing to some people, but for me, it's just part of the entire experience. There's nothing more 80s than Kurt Russell whipping a dagger into some some whitewashed Chinese guy's head, and it's all in the reflexes, baby. Anyway, all right, next is Jumanji. That I actually there's rumors kicking around that it's going to be rebooted.
There are?
Yeah.
Yeah, but why?
I hadn't heard this yet.
Exactly. Yeah. I hate to say it like this, but this is really how I feel. Robin Williams is barely cold in the ground. Just leave it alone. And leave it alone. It's fine. It's a brilliant movie. It still holds up. Clash of the Titans was rebooted. We'll move along to that one because otherwise I'm going to cry about Robin Williams still. All right, Clash of the Titans was rebooted. It was the CGI bleep fest that we're fearing for these other movies, and the animatronics in that movie and the stop motion special effects. You know, the people see them as cheesy and maybe like them ironically. For me, I think that it's fantastic because this came out of people with incredibly creative visions and no other way to bring them to the screen. And so they used what they had, and they still told stories. Maybe I'm apologetic for it because of my love of Star Trek, which is notorious for that kind of stuff, but there's something to be said. And every time I watch an episode of Next Generation and one of the planets is a clear matte painting, I'm just like, I miss matte paintings. Matte paintings, it brings the theater craft to the film and to the screen. So I do appreciate that. And I mean, come on, the Clockwork Owl.
Yeah,
awesome. that would never happen convincingly in CGI. It'd be some like honestly, I remember so little about the reboot that I can't remember if they. Oh, that's right. They did a little homage to it. They picked it up and they're like, what's this? But if they ever actually tried to do something like that now, it would end up being like something that belongs on DeviantArt, somebody's idea of what a steampunk owl looks like. Whatever. I love steampunk. I'm over it. Next up, completely out of the realm of genre, but for me personally, my favorite show growing up, right behind, or just barely ahead, I should say, of Step by Step and Full House was Boy Meets World. And I watched an episode of Girl Meets World with my nephews, and it was just so sad. It was just so sad.
I've heard it's okay.
It's okay for kids, but I'm like, what it reminded me of is, okay, so we grew up in the 80s and 90s when the reunion show 10, 15 years later was like a thing that every major sitcom did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this feels like it's a reunion show, but they're making a whole series out of it. And it belongs in a reunion show. It doesn't belong in a full series, in my opinion. And then lastly, this is probably the most controversial on here, but screw you, J.J. Abrams. Leave my Star Trek alone. That's all I'm going to say. All right, so there you go. I screwed up
I liked it.
I liked it too.
Of course you did. You're not true fans.
No,
I mean,
Star Trek can go die in a pit somewhere, so far as I'm concerned. I'm only saying that to see if I can get you.
Yeah, I know.
Someday, Team Mana Biscuit will go to a Star Trek convention, have a table, and TJ and I will dress as Obi-Wan and and
dude, you
Chewbacca
think that's original?
No, dude, I don't think it's at all. You want to see how many people can actually try to goad us into.
Dress as like Doctor.
No, I mean
dress as Doctor.
Look, the granddaddy.
No, we need to dress as the stop motion skeletons from a Ray Harryhausen film. That's what we need.
All right, so at the last Star Trek convention I was at, there was a dude in little like plush fox ears in a pleated schoolgirl skirt and knee-high boots with like a big beard running around
and a tail. What kind of conventions do you attend?
Oh, you want to know what else is interesting? Because Indianapolis is not that far away from Chicago. I saw that exact same guy at Gen Con last weekend.
Did you really?
I did. Yes.
I didn't see the. You
so,
must wander some strange circles when I leave you alone.
Oh yeah, the main concourse. Yeah, there are a lot of strange circles at Gen Con.
Yeah.
That's anyway. So back to your point, there are so many people dressed as whatever at a Star Trek convention, especially you look at some of the photos coming out of Las Vegas, where the granddaddy of all Star Trek conventions just happened last weekend. It's like there were actually my personal favorite was a Darth Vader outfit after Vader had been assimilated by the Borg, and that was pretty cool.
That is.
But anyway. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up our this week's episode.
Do
you want to pick top 5 of the top 5? If you want.
I like doing the top 5 of the top 5.
All right, let's do the top 5 of the top 5.
Well, let's see what we like out of RJ's. All of it, but honestly, I'm leaning towards Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, I mean, we had this discussion when the topic was first brought up. It's if you ask me, what things have no business being a reboot, I will say, well, anything that's ever been rebooted, because I hate reboots in general as a concept. So any of these are fine. Any of yours are fine. I will leave the top 5 of top 5 to you guys. So you picked Big Trouble in Little China out of mine. Let's take a quick look again at Jay's.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, Firefly.
Princess Bride, Firefly. Look at TJ's real quick.
Okay.
And
Goonies.
E.T. without a doubt, man.
Yeah, E.T. And then I'm torn between Rocky and Goonies.
Oh, Goonies, definitely.
Goonies.
Yeah, I really don't care that much about Rocky.
Goonies, E.T., Firefly, Princess
Bride,
and Big Trouble in Little China.
Top 5 of our 5. Okay, as always, in no particular order. These are just things that have no business being a thing as reboots. So we will, with that, we will say goodbye. Look for us next week when our episode will be the top 5 Minion memes that got posted to TJ's wall for his birthday.
All right. Suckity TJ.
And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.